Nintendo is at a crossroads right now, and it kind of reminds me of back when the Wii U launched and how that kind of fell flat on its face and flopped because the previous console, the Wii, sold tremendously well. And people who had a Wii were like, yeah, I don't understand what that next console is even providing in addition to what I already have right now. So why would I upgrade to that console? And then we fast forward a few years, and the Wii U is one of the worst consoles that Nintendo has ever sold as far as sales are concerned. Now we are in a situation that kind of reminds me directly of that with the Switch 2 launching. And the Switch 1 was basically the golden child of Nintendo that really peaked everything they've ever done. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Yes, I'm a big fan of the original Switch, and I was looking forward to the Switch 2, up to until Nintendo announced the prices of the games. And then we saw the Mario Kart Direct, where they went over all the features of Mario Kart World and how this game is going to be so much bigger and better and brighter than any of the Mario Karts combined previously. But all I saw when I was looking at it was, why can't this also be on the original Nintendo Switch? Oh yeah, because if this was available on the original Switch for $60, why would anyone care about upgrading to the Switch 2 and needing to spend an additional $20 USD just to buy games for a system that honestly is not a massive upgrade from what the original Switch had to offer in the first place? Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down how Mario Kart World Direct has come out. And the fans were, I guess, fine with it. It was basically the same way I felt about it, where the game looks great. It looks like a really fun Mario Kart game that I personally will be looking forward to playing. But it kind of exposes a massive issue with what's actually transpiring in the underbelly below. Mario Kart World has finally been revealed in full, and visually it is undeniably polished. The environments look great, character animations are crisp, and the courses showcase Nintendo's signature charm. But again, the entire time that I'm watching this, I'm wondering, why do I need to buy a new console to play a game that, let's be honest, looks very similar to the previous Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which you could say looks very similar to the previous Mario Kart 8 on Wii U. Not saying that this is a bad game or that those games weren't great. I'm just saying, what's so special about Mario Kart World where it can't go on the Nintendo Switch? From dolphins riding dolphins to cow characters, they all somehow stole the show. There's plenty to be smiling about with the whimsical racing adventure. But once all that nostalgia starts to fade, the question keeps coming back to me as I was watching this. Why is this exclusive to the Switch 2? And then you look at how Nintendo doesn't really have a massive property to help anchor and sell this new console. Well, outside of Donkey Kong Bonanza, which for some reason is $70, but outside of that one game, Nintendo probably had to make a executive decision of, we need more than just a game that's not going to appeal to every single person to make people excited about the Switch 2. So Nintendo was like, sure, we could make this for both consoles, but then we wouldn't really have people excited to buy the Switch 2 as much. So let's just make it exclusive to the Switch 2. And because we're doing that, we can now justify jacking the price up $20 additional because there's no alternative. And like I said, despite how it looks, which is great, I'll be honest, Mario Kart World doesn't strike me as any kind of significant leap forward from the original Mario Kart 8 visually or mechanically. In fact, there's a valid argument to be made here, apart from the few new characters and costumes, that it's very hard to distinguish from the Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. Like, I challenge people to plug their Wii U in, HDMI cable and all, play the original Mario Kart 8 and be like, yeah, it looks the same. There's not any kind of massive improvements to this, which I'm sure Nintendo fanboys will hear that and be like, yeah, that's what I want. I want it to look the same. That's what I want. Okay. But again, Why is Nintendo making you upgrade a new console for something that clearly could play on previous generations? In a weird way, I kind of feel like this is the crossroads that not just Nintendo is at these days, but the video game industry in general, where they don't really have a buying proposition to sell you on new games because the technology has all but peaked with what they can actually process with the power in these consoles. So now they're saying, hey, buy the new console because while we could put this game on the other ones, we're only going to put it on the new console, so you're going to have to migrate over to that one now for that. This tactic isn't new for the company, but it is becoming increasingly blatant. Once where Nintendo would throw in a free game with a major purchase, now they're expecting customers to shell out $80 USD plus tax for a racing title that, while very fun, obviously, doesn't radically innovate anything that hasn't already been done before, which again is fine. I'm not trying to knock Mario Kart as a series. I love the series. But why is this game only available on the Switch 2? And yes, I know I'm asking the rhetorical question that we all already know the answer to. It's greed. It's they want to be able to make more money off of this. And if it was available on the original Switch, they know most people who already own a Nintendo Switch, over 150 million people worldwide, would be like, hey, maybe I'm not going to rush out and get that Switch 2 day one. Why don't I just buy the game on the Switch I already own for $60 USD plus tax instead of buying a new console, spending upwards of $500 plus dollars on it after tax, and then looking at other first party titles that are starting at $70 USD and going up from there to $80 plus dollars USD, potentially even further. At some point, you gotta wonder what your limits are with this stuff. The direct presentation itself did very little to ease any of my questions as well. What many people had hoped to be a deep dive explaining new mechanics or surprise new content that nobody expected ended up being a glorified extended trailer that went on for about 15 minutes or so. While many of the fans were left amused and a little bit bewildered, as Nintendo reiterated some basic information like confirming that Mario is playable in Mario Kart, while also skimming past all sorts of meaningful upgrades that could have helped justify the price. A lot of it didn't really make much sense. It almost kind of feels like Nintendo has reached a point right now where it's like, yeah, the games here going forward are going to be 80 bucks and we're leaving the Switch behind because that's not going to be making us money in the future. And because we're able to charge these games $80, we're going to be making even more money in the future. But I worry that if people look at the situation for what it is, they might say, I don't know if it's really worth upgrading to the Switch 2. The original Switch was just fine. Again, harkening back to the Wii and Wii U situation where there wasn't a massive buying proposition for most people to upgrade to the next console, alongside with people really confused what the hell the Wii U even was back then. But that's a whole nother story. There were moments of charm throughout the reveal with quirky item returns like the Mega Mushroom and some funny mission snippets, and of course the announcement of Rainbow Road being locked behind the full completion, which is great, but clearly not feeling any kind of revolutionary creation of anything new here. In fact, the most unifying moment in the chat wasn't about the game feature at all, but that the random cow that people saw immediately were falling in love with. In fact, that was the one part of the operation where the chat changed from lower the price, drop the price, the games are too expensive, to holy crap, a cows are amazing. And I think Nintendo knew exactly what they were doing with that one. Ultimately, Mario Kart World is a solid, safe, and obviously very well-crafted entry from the series. Nothing that we wouldn't expect coming out of the House of Mario. But without holding any kind of meaningful innovation, it sends a clear message. It's not about whether the game could run on the original Switch, it's that they don't want it to. And that, more than anything, explains the $20 increase USD in price, where if it was on the original Switch, I can tell you guys right now, most people would look at the Switch 2 like, why would I even want to buy that? I'll just buy it on the original Switch and be able to play it because, sure, I guess higher frames per second and a little bit more clarity is nice, but I'm not going to want to upgrade to your next console if the games are going to start costing me $20 more each time. So what Nintendo is going to start doing is just saying, yeah, all right, We'll leave the original Switch in the dust and start making games for the Switch 2 only and force people to make that leap. And that right there might be the biggest risk of all, especially considering the insanely massive ownership base of the original Nintendo Switch. For Nintendo to take the leap away from that and try to start anew and start charging people $20 more for games is a big risk, like I said, to say the least. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what your thoughts on Mario Kart World being exclusive to the Switch 2 are, the $20 premium price, USD, even more in Canadian, and if this is something that you're willing to take on, or if you're going to draw the line somewhere along the way. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Plus, new drivers like Goomba, Spike, and, that's right, Cow!
Smash, change, smash, change, smash, change, smash, change, smash, change,